The cop grinned as he slipped his hand into the driver's pocket, pulling out his wallet. He could already feel the crunch of bills under his fingers. $500, or your daughter sees her daddy get shoved into a patrol car, he hissed, casting a glance at the frightened girl in the passenger compartment. But when the dark-skinned driver slowly pulled out not money but a tattered leather document, the officer's smirk froze. The city noise of Miami, the familiar hum of cars, the shouts of street vendors, and the rhythmic beats of music from open car windows were instantly cut off by the sharp, piercing wail of a police siren. James Carter, the dark-skinned driver, felt his palms instantly covered with cold sweat and his heart beat so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of his chest. He furtively glanced in the rearview mirror where his 8-year-old daughter Lisa was sitting, her big brown eyes wide with fear. "It's okay, baby," he said, trying to keep his voice from shaking, but he knew full well himself that it could be anything but okay. His dark fingers automatically activated the right turn signal and the car slowly pulled to the curb, raising a small cloud of dust. The door of his modest sedan had not yet opened when a policeman approached him, a tall, broad-shouldered white man with cold blue eyes that read something between irritation and anticipation. His name, Brian Hall, James would learn later, when he read the complaint against the man. For now, the officer didn't even introduce himself, just rapped his knuckles sharply on the glass. "Get out. Hands on the hood. Now." James, whose black skin had made him a target for such tests more than once, took a deep breath and slowly got out of the car. He knew this scenario by heart: one wrong move, one harsh word, and he could end up in handcuffs or worse. His dark palms rested on the hot hood, and his gaze automatically found his daughter in the mirror. She was pressed against the window, her plump lips quivering. "You're speeding," Brian muttered, not even looking at the radar. "Sir, I was going exactly 50, James replied, trying to speak as neutrally as possible, without a hint of defiance. "This is a residential zone, I always observe." The officer interrupted him, leaning in so close that James could smell mint gum and something else, probably cheap whiskey. "Listen up, buddy," he hissed, the threat now clearly audible in his voice. "You got two choices. Either you pull out $500 and we forget about it. Or I put you in handcuffs, call social services for your little girl, and give you a night like this, after which you'll be praying I just take the money. Take your pick." At that moment, James realized, this wasn't a traffic stop, it wasn't an ID check. This isn't even extortion. This is pure, unadulterated robbery, covered by uniform and badge. His black fingers involuntarily clenched into fists, but he knew, one blow, one sharp movement, and he would lose everything. Lisa would be alone. And this man would go unpunished. As always. Liza's little finger left a foggy mark on the glass as she pressed her forehead against the cold window. Her brown eyes, the same as her father's, widened with horror as she watched her hero, her unwavering daddy, stand hunched under the pressure of that man in uniform. She saw his dark, muscular hands, usually so warm and gentle when he'd put her to bed, now clenching convulsively into fists, nails digging into his palms, leaving red crescents on his swarthy skin. "Dad." Her whisper sounded like a crystal chime, shattering the oppressive silence. Brian didn't even turn his head. His icy gaze didn't waver as the metal handcuffs glinted in his hand like a predatory grin. "Decide quickly," his voice was like a rusty blade creaking on stone. "I don't have time for you to think." James felt an icy sweat run down his back. Scraps of memories flashed before his eyes, his father returning from the station with a black eye and a broken rib. "Never argue with them, son," he wheezed, spitting blood into the sink. "To them, we're always guilty already by the fact of birth." A breath of air. The smell of gasoline and the daughter perfume baby shampoo. Option 1, get the wallet. Humiliate yourself. Give the last of your rent money. Option 2, try to argue. Risk your freedom. Leave Lisa alone in this cruel world. Somewhere in the distance, a seagull screeched. Like a taunt. His gaze fell on Lisa. At her trembling lower lip. At the tears she was desperately holding back, because Daddy always said, "Carters don't cry." And in that moment, he realized the terrible truth: he was powerless. James felt goosebumps run down his spine. The air between them was thick, as if filled with electricity before a thunderstorm. He took a deep breath, straightened his back, and spoke clearly, with emphatic formality, "You have a duty to inform me of my rights, including the right to an attorney." Brian froze for a second, his eyebrows raised in exaggerated surprise. Then he broke into a harsh, unnatural laugh, more like a bark. "Oh, is that so?" His voice became sweet with fake mirth. "Now we have a lawman here." He took a threatening step forward, deliberately shortening the distance. James felt the officer's breath, smelling of minty bubblegum, burning his face. "You think a piece of paper is going to save you?" Brian hissed, his hand nervously reaching for the cuffs on his belt. "I can get you." James didn't back away. Instead, his hand moved smoothly to the inside pocket of his jacket. Brian tensed, but James only slowly pulled out a dark brown leather wallet. Before proceeding, his voice suddenly took on the calm, measured tone he used in parliamentary hearings. "I strongly suggest you read this." He opened his wallet, revealing not money, but a polished card with a gold state seal. Brian frowned, reached for the card incredulously, and suddenly his fingers trembled visibly. The skin on the officer's face took on a grayish tint. His eyes, running over the lines, suddenly stopped on one line: James A. Carter, member of the House of Representatives, Law Enforcement Oversight Committee. A drop of sweat slowly rolled down his temple. "Are you?" His voice suddenly became hoarse, like an old man's. "Are you a deputy?" James slowly, almost ceremoniously, took back his ID card. His movements now radiated a calm, unquestioning authority, the very same authority that the officer's street brazenness had instantly lost. "Yes," he answered, pausing deliberately so that Brian could feel the weight of the word. "And you know what the best part is?" He had already pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. Lisa's eyes, still pressed against the car window, reflected amazement. It was the first time she'd ever seen her father speak like that. "Today was the meeting of our committee to fight police corruption." What an amazing coincidence, isn't it? Brian tried to say something, but only incoherent mumbling came out of his mouth. His hand reached for his badge with a nervous tick, a familiar gesture of uncertainty. "Wait, Mr. Carter, maybe there's something we can do." But James was already dialing. Not to the patrol chief. Not to internal affairs. Straight to the chairman of the commission. "Hello, Bill." "Yeah, it's James. I've got, an interesting situation." Brian stood there like a death row inmate, listening to his career fall to pieces in one 30-second call. His cheeks were flushed with a sickly blush, and his eyes darted between James and the police car as if he thought he could still get away. An hour later, with the official suspension order already buzzing through the phones of the entire precinct, James was calmly putting Lisa in the car. "Daddy, what's going to happen to that policeman?" she asked, finally daring to speak. James glanced in the rearview mirror, where a familiar uniformed figure flashed by, removing things from the squad car. He wasn't a cop anymore, sunshine. He started the engine, and they drove away to the sound of sirens, but this time it was more of a funeral song for someone's rotten career.